On this episode of the Subs Bench On Screen, we're joined by Football Queensland manager of Futsal, Sciacca, and president of South Brisbane Fury, Greg Urlich, to talk about the game of futsal in Queensland and the future. Enjoy.
Just to, I suppose, start us off, Vince, if you tell us about your background and what led you to your current role as futsal manager at Football Queensland.
Yeah, well, you know, they talk about these days where they say people have, multiple careers.
Yeah.
I'm that new generation, I guess, with grey hair. I was a business consultant for 30 years.
Yeah.
I ran my own boutique practice. It was all about business process improvement. Mm-hmm. So you'll see a lot of what I do. I'm very much, I think process is king.
Yeah.
And I also was based in the deployment of technology solutions.
Yeah.
So I love systems. So I've been pretty much actively involved in futsal for about the last 30 years, football and futsal. I've been involved in a football club as well, multiple football clubs. And I've played various forms of the games. 30 years ago when we were playing, we didn't know it as futsal. We was called indoor soccer.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers the old days of playing with the side nets and the big furry tennis ball.
Yeah.
The ball never went out, and then, so I got involved, but then I got involved in futsal once my kids started playing. And back then it was pretty much a combination of, most of the kids that played, or even we played as adults, we used to play in the off season. We'd play football during the winter, play futsal in the summer. I then kind of retired from the business consulting space. And I jumped in and I did some work with, previously I'd volunteered some time with Vikings Futsal. I took a role with a company called AFA, which is a futsal provider. I was the national technical director there and basically oversaw player development, participations, league. I was looking after coach development, referee development as well. So, which was interesting in itself because it kind of gave me a different perspective. Being a player and a coach, I kind of now had a better respect for what it was like to be a referee. Fast forward, other side of the pandemic, and I'm kind of like kicking about thinking, I got a call from Football Queensland saying, hey, can you help out with our futsal, which I happily did. I kind of got involved and helped with a couple of leagues. And then when the futsal manager role came up, I thought, I'm going to throw my name in the ring and see where that goes. I got the job, which I've always said to people, I love my job. I kind of feel like I've got the best job, best job in the world. It doesn't feel like a job. Yeah. I work ridiculous hours, but not because I'm made to. It's just out of choice, So I guess for me, where all this leads to is I'm bringing business experience to the game. Yeah. Sometimes people we in sports administration we kind of think it's just about the sport, right? But you've got to make it sustainable. So. Everything I do, I've been pushing for has been unifying the sport. For way too long, futsal has been dominated by these kind of splinter groups that have their own agenda. I think that's kind of slowed the progression of the sport. And my focus has always been good governance and administration. Obviously, due to my professional background, being process-driven is important to me. And what I'm looking for is trying to implement a framework that's not only sustainable, but integrates our futsal products so everyone can participate anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Excellent. Yeah.
What about you, Greg? How'd you get involved?
Through the kids. I was on the sunny coast when we first moved from New Zealand. One of my boys was playing football at Maroochydore, and in the off season they said, do you want to play futsal? Just come from New Zealand, rugby player, never heard of futsal. So I ended up coaching that same group of boys through Chancellor State College for from grade 7 to grade 12, and had Trevor Edwards a year behind me with his kid and their boys. So that was sort of the introduction, and then I ended up took a few teams away, state teams. So I was coaching 15 boys, 16 boys. 15 years ago when my boy was 15. Got involved with the committee up there. I was Sunshine Coast president for not quite 2 terms until work called me to the Gold Coast. And got involved with the so-called F League back then when it was a national league, where there was, it there was interstate travel.
Yeah.
Teams from New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, ACT. Too far for WA, but yeah, that's another story. So I was managing South Brisbane when Felipe was coaching at Felipe and Sarah Amram. They started South Brisbane in 2012 with that sort of purpose in mind to enter the National League, and it was a business back then. And then the demise of the National League, somewhere between FA and Football New South Wales decided not to continue with it. Was Felipe decided to look at building the sport rather than the club.
Yeah.
So we kind of lost all our juniors. There was a period there around 2014, 15 maybe, where we had the most juniors around. I say we, I wasn't involved in it, but South Brisbane did. So then we went through a period where they concentrated on the league, and they're now a competition provider, Right Language.
That's right.
Yeah, Right Language, yeah. They still are a competition provider, affiliated with FQ. So I started coaching the men's team then. So we played in some of the local leagues. Had a women's team and a youth team really from 2017 through to probably around about the first F League season, which we didn't play in. But that's when F League started. We thought, okay, we've got to get serious. So we rather than playing that first season, we focused on becoming an association. Yeah. So Felipe's business was there, but it was dormant. He'd given us, it was the full rights to do whatever we wanted with the teams and stuff. So, we spent probably longer than we needed to, but we wanted to, you use the word sustainable. Whatever we start, we wanted to be here in another 20 years.
Got to continue it on.
So we spent a lot of time getting that in place. Got a committee up, did it all legally, became an association. And the second F League season, we didn't play in that either because we'd only just become an association. So we decided to give it another year so that when we come in, we're not going to have to drop out the next season.
You want to be ready.
So we've always had a strong men's team and women's team up and down through those 7 years, and still do. I think the men just missed out on finals last year, and the women made the finals. The men's missed out on goal difference. So we're competitive. We'll be competitive again this year. And we're just getting back into the junior space. So that's our next challenge. Is okay, association set up. We've got a 3-year F League license, and we need to be serious about juniors. And the reason that we haven't jumped into that space again is because I don't want to do it. So if I do something I don't want to do, it's not going to last. Yeah. So we want the right people in the right places. So other clubs might think we're going a bit slow about it, but we're serious about being here in 20 or 30 years. Yeah. I'm already looking out, okay, who's the next president? Because the best compliment I can get as a coach, in business or, in an association is that I can walk away from here and it's maybe not seamless, but it continues because we've trained up and we've left the leadership that can take our place, whether that's on the court, off the court. So, that's a bit about me. And I've always loved small-sided games. In New Zealand at school, after school, played indoor cricket, there was a stupid game called broom ball that we used to play on ice in sand shoes with jeans on. Anything small-sided I love. So when we found futsal here, it was like, oh man, this is a great game. Just the speed of it and the pace of it. And so that's a little bit about me. So, so this year I've stepped down not stepped down, but last year I coached men and women, and it was too much doing that and sort of overseeing juniors and stuff. So I've handed the men on after only coaching men and boys for all of my coaching experience, and then jumped into the women's space, and I've really enjoyed it. So this year I've dropped the men, Declan's doing that, and I'm coaching the women and probably the 15 girls as well. Yeah, because that's my next women's thing. Yeah,
cool. Back your way, Vince. Are you able to explain a bit further on how the framework is structured for futsal in the state, and maybe compare a little bit with football itself? How the two are different? Yeah,
well, okay. I guess when we're looking at the futsal framework, the one thing we know about life is that the only constant we have is change. So we need to make sure that whatever framework we were putting in place for futsal, and we've got a strategic plan, which is fantastic. Like the strategic plan, which it's been refreshed and will be launched shortly, and that takes us through to 2026, and it's fairly ambitious. And it's based on a framework. That framework has to be agile. And we also know that if we want to be the leader when it comes to futsal, we also have to be innovative. So that's what makes the framework quite exciting. The other thing is that people feel comfort in familiarity. So we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We know what works with football. Yeah. And it doesn't always just work just because it's football. It works because it's best practice.
Yeah.
So the futsal framework, as it's evolving, is starting to mirror more and more what we do with football. And the thing is that our game, our sport, it's been played. I mean, it's been around for 30 plus years in this country, but it's also been referred to as the Wild Wild West, right? In the fact that there's been a lot of rogue operators, as I said to you earlier, a lot of splinter groups. Yeah. And I said, so to me, that's, in my opinion, it's probably what has caused the sluggish development of the sport. There's an old saying that if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. When I took over futsal, and obviously I had some fairly strong ideas, coming into the role, I was told straight out, don't bring in regulations, don't have restrictions, they're not going to work. We don't want, control. We just want to keep doing what we've always done. Well, the days of the Wild Wild West are limited. And once I was kind of thrown that challenge, to me that was like red rag at a bull. I'm saying, well, there you go. Well, there's my challenge. Yeah. And I actually found the opposite. And I found the opposite very, very quickly. People actually embraced having regulations. And structure. And they wanted the structure. They wanted strong administration of the game. They wanted to know that there were clear pathways. They looked for transparency and accountability and the way the sport was going to be managed. Look, I hear it every day. And you go on the socials, and if you go on the socials, you just go crazy, right? Yeah. But you hear it every day, and it's the same old. The peanut gallery are always yelling out, FQ doesn't care about the game. All they want is the income from the sport, blah, blah, blah. These are just people trying to justify their own existence, right? I see the money that we put into the game. I see the investment that we make. People think that there's all this money to be made in leagues. Yeah. And as I say to people continuously, we're Football Queensland. We can't cut corners. I don't have that option. Yeah. I work for other futsal providers where you could cut that corner. You could make it cheap and everything was making money. But that's not my objective. I don't have, I have a budget and that's basically to control what we spend. But I don't have a target in terms of bringing in revenue. So our school programs actually cost us significant money, whereas other providers are making significant money. I flagged that with our management, but as I'm reminded continuously, we're investing in the game, and we're in it for the long game, in the long run. Look, later this week we're going to be featuring launching our new junior leagues. The junior leagues are not new, but they're being restructured. Yeah. So they're going to look like the football leagues. Yeah. And again, it's, as I said earlier, it's not just because it's not for football's sake. It's really about knowing that this is our best practice model. So we're going to see things like the FQ Academy League 1. Yeah. We're going to be launching the FQ Academy League 2, but it'll be localised. So where League 1 will be in Southeast Queensland, very similar to what we have now with our football programs. League 2, this year we're launching Metro North, which will be based in Aspley. We're launching Metro South, which will be based at Acacia Ridge. And we're launching South Coast, which will be on the Gold Coast. Because I'm a big believer that our kids shouldn't have to be driving in a vehicle for an hour and a half just to get to a game. The sooner I can get a player playing and the more games I can get them, more minutes I can get them on the court or on the pitch, the more I'm going to be able to develop those players for the future. So, we've got those coming. We've got simple things like we're launching our FQ futsal academies. Well, we know that model works in football. So we're going to follow that model. If it works in football and we're seeing that, we're going to develop the same model for futsal. We run Winterfest, which is run in the June school holidays. And it's basically for the non-competitive age groups. Well, as of 2025, we're launching Springfest. Springfest will be the Winterfest version, the futsal version for in the spring, and it'll bookend it. But what it does is it creates a really strong visual that Football Queensland isn't just about football, but Football Queensland is about all forms of the game, be it football, be it beach soccer, or be it futsal. So when we talk about the familiarity, look, we have our own challenges in futsal. The execution might look a little bit differently, but most definitely the leagues and the structures and the framework is going to look very, very similar to football. But sometimes when we need to go from A to B, we have to go via C to get there. So, yeah.
Greg, from a club's perspective, how do you see the current framework, the structures in place?
I think I'm with Vince in terms of practices and best practice and process. I mean, even on the pitch, that's true. Good process. We want good process. Execution sometimes comes later. But for me, I can see the value of using a model that works.
Yeah.
So the football model, not perfect, but it works.
Yeah.
My concern with any of that is that the identity of futsal gets swallowed up in that. And first of all, I can have a different opinion maybe.
Yeah.
But we're still supporting what they're doing. So it's like the length of the season, we played all year for 7 years.
Yeah.
And with the restructuring and, like you were talking about change, with change comes change. So this year we've got players that have gone back to playing football. Not that I'm against football at all, because there's nothing in that space. But that, it'll take time to adjust. The Premier League will come along, the second division, maybe even something beyond that, as time progresses. So I guess being someone that knows futsal, that has been involved in futsal only, that has had a men's team that is not because I've told them to, but have wanted to. Have only played futsal. There's some adjustment for me in adjusting to the framework. The bottom line is, and as coach, as president, as whatever, what we've always done is play where the players want to be. So it comes down to what's the market.
Yeah.
And FIFA, FA, FQ, they've got the market. They just have. And I'm not saying that negatively either. So what we need to do is to go into that space, and it's going to take collaboration. It's going to, I've got no issue with rules and regulation and compliance. I mean, it's tidying things up, But at the same time, there's some things that we've been used to that we've enjoyed that are changing, and so it just takes adjustment. So, I think there are some challenges because if we move everything to just be like football, then we kind of lose the identity of futsal in the process. But at the same time, if there's, we don't want to throw the baby out, because if it works, I mean, the NPL system works, and while the F League's not the same in terms of the way that it runs and structured as NPL, there's a lot of similarities, but there are some differences. So we need to be able to take what works, but also maintains the identity of futsal. Because for me, futsal is not just a good thing for football.
Yeah.
For me, the end goal of futsal is futsal.
And look, with the football side of things, I know that when the new structures came in place, we all said it was going to take 3 or 4 years to sort itself out. The right teams will end up where they're supposed. So it might take 2 or 3 years of just working its way to get to a product where, this is definitely the best way to do it now. So, as you say, sometimes you got to go from A to B. You might have to go by it.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, it's a journey. We're all on the journey together. So.
Yeah.
As far as the strategic reforms, like back to the events, is there any more of the specifics that you can sort of share around what's planned for the future and beyond that next couple of years? Yeah,
well, look, I mean, last year we kind of came into this and we continued the theme that Football Queensland was doing with fee reform. I think we had a change. We'd not seen a change in our fee structure for futsal for over a decade. We actually looked to restructure. We needed to get our terminology right. Sometimes the answer is directly in front of us. We needed to understand what was a competition manager. And this is where we are different to football. In football Queensland is the competition manager and clubs participate.
Yep.
We don't have that same model in futsal. And go back to what Greg was saying, futsal is different. We're kind of trying to gravitate and pull together on the familiarities of football, but we also have our idiosyncrasies and they won't change. Our market is dominated by private providers, but they typically provide leagues and they fill a massive void for us. So we kind of split as part of our reforms. We introduced new terminology. You now become licensed or affiliated. So you can become licensed as a competition manager. That means you provide competitions in leagues, but in the community space. So the same rules don't apply there. It is pretty much grab 5 mates and rock up and play. And And then we also have the more structured approach, which is what the futsal clubs and the advanced league. So the terminology we brought in was competition manager is a licensed, it's geographic. Mm-hmm. No one else will come into that geographic area and compete with you, so that, you know, if you're investing in that market, you reap the rewards from that market. The other side of it was we have futsal clubs. Futsal clubs aren't geographic, but they need to meet the same criteria and the same governance models that football clubs operate under. And they require committees and structures. That means that they basically have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and work very, very similar to a football club. The other thing is that we split the way the leagues operate. We talk about community leagues, and anything that Football Queensland doesn't run is a community league, which basically means we don't have to bring in all those robust. I mean, the beauty of futsal, being able to just play and, you know, just grab 5 mates, call yourselves the washing machines and buy a Juventus jersey and play in that is fantastic, you know. And some of our competition managers are a little more sophisticated, and they offer Premier League type products, but they also offer just bring 5 mates and play. The FQ product, however, which is the domain for futsal clubs, is a lot more structured. It is along the FIFA sanctions. You're only allowed to play for one club. We do follow the visa rules. We have all those structures in place, but they're considered to be our advanced leagues. And they're for the place because we understand that we have a big market. I think we had over 9,000 participants in Queensland last year. And I believe that number is well understated. Because we still have a lot of participants that just don't register or are just hidden, or, you know, even we know that some of our competition managers hide, especially senior players. And I can understand for a way why that happens is because as a senior player, why would I want to play a Rego? Why would I want to play a Rego to Football Queensland? So we brought in fee reform. We broke down how the model looks, so we understand the market a lot better. So now when people come in, they know I can be a licensed competition manager, or I can be an affiliated club. If I'm an affiliated club, and the only way you can access Football Queensland products is by being an affiliated club. So I think you know, that's been a big part of where we're headed strategically. The other thing is that there's a wealth of talent in regional Queensland. The climate is perfect for it. If you think about it, in regional Queensland, we're having to share our facilities with other sports. Unlike Southeast Queensland, where football never sleeps, it kind of keeps going, you know, 24/7 all year round, 365 days a year. In regional Queensland, the weather's on our side. You know, it's either too hot or too wet. So what a perfect opportunity to get players still developing indoor and playing futsal. So we've got that, but we also know, having travelled around Queensland with the school championships that we've been running, there's an amazing amount of talent. And I guess one of the big things I have is I have a very strong social conscience that no player, no matter where you live, should ever be denied access to a pathway. So that's a part of the other parts of the reforms that we're bringing in. We will be where there are no providers. Football Queensland will become the competition manager. So, you know, we've got an assault happening where we're in Townsville, in Mackay, Rockhampton, in Darling Downs. We will, because we don't have any football licensed competition managers there, we will be running our own leagues and our own competitions in those areas. And that's just to provide that kind of ground roots, kind of like a swell of getting players participating. Because once they start to participate, then we can start to filter through the elite players. And that's when the academies will be launching the academies in the regional areas. They will also get their own pathways. The other big thing about what we do comes down to infrastructure. And what we don't understand is, and what people don't understand is, we need to unify the game sooner rather than later. Because with the Olympics coming in 2032, and we see the facilities, you know, the contract at Chandler's being let. You know, we're building facilities up on the Sunshine Coast. In our strategic plan says that, you know, we will have a home of futsal, hopefully with it by 2026, 2027. The facilities being built at Roma Street. If we don't get our act together as a sport, we're going to miss the biggest generational opportunity.
There's a big There's a big market there.
Absolutely. If we don't jump on that and you know, we can all sit there and we just got to put our differences aside. We've got to put away our biases. No one can own a sport. You can't own football.
Yeah.
So what would make anyone think that they could own futsal?
Yeah.
So, and I think strategically that's a big push for us, is making sure that our game is unified. We go to government with a unified front, right? And we're able to secure tenure at these venues so that futsal is being played. We're never going to get futsal at the Olympics while we're still, you know, squabbling with each other as to who should own or control the game.
Yeah, true. The point you make about like the regional academies and like pathways up there, like that. I grew up in Rocky, so like you mentioned, Rockhampton is one of those spots. For me, like this is going back 25 years ago, but even then, like futsal there was more people who played than I realised. Even when I turned up to play, I was like, these guys don't. Back then, these guys don't play soccer. What are they doing here?
Yeah,
I didn't play outdoor football either when I was young, and I got my start through futsal. But I reckon, like back then, if there was an option to go either futsal or football, because for me it ended there. It was, well, that's just something I do on a Wednesday night, and that's as far as it goes. If I could have chosen futsal, I probably would have back then.
Look, you're singing you're preaching here to the converted. I mean, that's music to my ears, because I know that when I go to Italy, right, kids play one or the other.
Yep.
They either play football or they play futsal. I had a relationship with a club called Marconi in Rome. They had some leakage through they were aligned to Lazio, and they would maybe 1 or 2 or 3 players a year would leak over to football, but they had their own seasons. They trained 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week, and they played their game. But futsal's always been seen as that kind of like, you don't train. Well, that's the big change.
That was the thing for me. Like even back then, you'd make like a state team. There was no training. You just went away to the national titles at Canberra for a week of a year. That was it.
And that's the big change that we've got coming in. Like we know that we can put academy structures in place. It won't be perfect to start with. As we said, we're on a journey here. I mean, it's going to take a couple of years for it to shake itself out. But, I know that, kids in regional Queensland aren't getting the same opportunities as kids in southeast Queensland, and we need to address that. And part of our strategic reforms is making sure that it's not always the same product will suit everyone. But we're going to start academies and we're going to start a league. They may well play once or twice. They'll have their own pathway. Yeah. Kids we've already identified there'll be Northern, which will be Townsville and Cairns. There'll be Central, that will be Rockhampton and Mackay. There'll be Wide Bay, which will cover places like Bundaberg and Fraser Coast, and then there'll be Darling Downs. And but each town will have their own futsal academy. Yeah. And then they'll just come together and play, small tournaments, and that will be their pathway for being selected to represent Queensland country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as, it's pretty crucial to develop a sustainable market across all demographics. Like, what are Football Queensland doing to sort of boost the inclusivity and get across different interest levels across the state?
Well, we've talked about it a bit tonight. I mean, sustainability is important. We're not doing this for one day. We want whatever we create. We want to create a legacy. We want to build a sport. Obviously, we've got our structures coming in place, our academy leagues, that'll make it sustainable. But the sport has to be funded. But the thing is, we're always looking. We kind of feel there's we always think our governing bodies are bottomless pits of money. Yeah. And we just expect it to be funded from there. So one of the challenges I had when I took over, as the futsal manager, was we're just about to head into our second season of F League. The first season was great. We played full stop clock, but there was quite a bit of a financial burden on clubs. So when we go into second season, we're going from 6 clubs to 5. We changed some simple things, and I'll just use this as an example. But we got it's a horses for courses. So every problem we encounter, we need to look for pragmatic solutions. With the F League, we moved away from 20-minute stop clock, and we play 20-minute halves, 15 minutes run on the clock, last 5 minutes stop clock. There's less financial burden. That means we can centrally run. The first part of the season is home and away. Yep. Second part is centrally run. We can reduce the amount of time clubs have to spend on hiring courts. courts are not cheap. So we're taking some of the costs out of the game. We can't fund it because it's not sustainable for us to fund it in the long term. But if we look to how can we reduce the overall cost? Problem is that when we went to going into five club F-League kind of felt like we were falling a bit short. So I delayed the start. And what I said was, look, we're missing two of the biggest clubs. SEQ League, which was the precursor to a lot of what we were doing. The foundation clubs in there, Sunshine Coast Wave and Arana United, were not in the F-League. They weren't in League.
Why were they not in?
Oh, just because A was still providing the SEQ League as a product, and B, because the league was now starting earlier, those players only ever played in that October to December. And we're never going to grow the sport if you're just going to run a sport for 3 months of the year. It's not going to work, right? So now we start running the F-League. The F-League actually, in the first year, ran before the SEQ. So it was almost like there was two buses. If I didn't catch the first bus, I could always catch the second bus. So we kind of almost were cannibalising each other. We had two leagues. So the way forward was we're going to have one league. It's going to be F-League. That's going to be the Premier League. That's going to be the qualifying league in Queensland. So we needed to bring those other two clubs along on the journey. Now, I'd had some experience in my previous employment. I knew the shortcomings of what we class as a market of one. And it's a very familiar model we have in futsal, one that we probably know well too often. It's one person or one organisation wants to control everything that we do. My experience was, I worked for an organisation that they wanted to control where you play. You had to play at their venue. They wanted to control what you wear. You had to buy their merchandise, their uniform. They controlled the competition. So therefore they set the rules. They set the prices. They also, if you had a club, also wanted to own the club. So that's where we were in a market of one. Ultimately it was all about control. And we know the history of regimes that want control, they have a limited life. So I went about setting up a different model, and this is where we talk about sustainability. That's not a sustainable model, right? Once you stop making money, you'll just give up. So what I did was I went, okay, and obviously one of my big agenda items was let's unify the game. So we sat down, we brought all the players together, and we got the 8 clubs. I forget who the additional club. We went from 5. Or we might have brought one club back for another season. We picked up. Well, actually, it might have been a new club came in. I think it was Sala Time actually came in. And we also brought in Arana United and Sunshine Coast Wave. There's a funny thing about human nature. If it's open to everyone, no one comes. But if you make it a restricted market, then, FOMO sets in and I don't want to miss out. So we actually had more applicants. Even though we delayed the start, we had more applicants than we had spots. So we picked our 8 clubs. But my approach was very, very different to what we've done traditionally. It was home and away. So, and if you want a market, if you want a real market, right, and one that's sustainable, you need to collaborate. You need to go in there with an attitude of partnering and inclusivity. So what we said was, okay, I said, well, we're one stakeholder, we're Football Queensland, we run the competition, but you guys are also equal partners and equal stakeholders. There's 8 clubs. But you all have to wear something. So that means 8 clubs, 8 clubs, bring in 8 merchandise providers. So now 8 becomes 16. They all got to play somewhere. So they've got to all have their own venues. So they bring their own venues in. So now the market's gone from 16 to 24. Add in their sports medics, add in their merchandise, equipment suppliers, add in their sponsors, and all of a sudden we've got 50, 60 participants or stakeholders. So, but it gets better, it's a bit like the old ad on TV, but there's more, and with those 50 or 60, they bring something to the table. So not only are they in the market, they either bring product in kind, or they bring financial sponsors, bring money. So conservatively speaking, and obviously I don't know the true figure because, it would be commercial in confidence to the clubs, but in that second season, season 2, I'd say that every club on average probably brought about $5,000 worth of investment in the game. Well, there's $40,000 that didn't exist before. So now we're actually got a market that's actually bringing money in.
Yeah.
We don't want the money, right? What's Football Queensland going to do with the income? Because that doesn't create for sustainability. If I have to, what's the old saying? If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. If you feed him a fish, he'll only eat for a day.
Yeah.
So we organise these clubs, and the clubs are all independent.
Yeah.
We don't own them. They all have their own boards, their own structures, just like Greg is here. He's completely independent. He speaks for himself. Every club is in the same boat. So, we end up with a market of 50-60. By season 4, which we just started, we're two rounds into season 4, that level of investment is significantly higher.
Yeah.
So this is what we mean by creating a sustainable market, and in the past, and I've been in that model, and I've worked for organisations where they felt that, I had a CEO once tell me that, you can't give power to the clubs because, the clubs will ultimately overrun you. Look, with reward comes risk. We know that as good as every day will dawn, so will a new league. I see it every time I open the socials. There's another league starting up tomorrow. It promises to be bigger and better than what we've already got.
Yeah.
Does that worry me? No. It motivates me. I turn up every day knowing that me and my team and Football Queensland need to bring the A game.
Yeah.
Because, the thing is, if you don't have good competition out there, ultimately it's going to breed complacency.
Go stale.
And it'll go stale. Yeah. That's right. So I love it. I love the fact every time I see, someone else proposing that they're going to start a new national league or, because I know what our product is like. And I won't reduce our standards. When you watch an F-League game, you see 12, 14 players on the bench. You don't see a live stream with, sometimes you see some of these products don't even have a coach on there. Everyone's in a proper kit. We have the best competition management system that's tracking it. We're fully digital, no paper match sheets. We're trying to reduce the overall cost burden and the governance burden on the clubs. So when we talk about sustainability, you have to come up with a model where it's funding itself. And I think we're doing a pretty good job at that.
Yeah. So just to touch upon that, I suppose, Greg, have you noticed a difference in the last 2-3 years then? Is it easier now to get sponsorship coming in as the league gets a little bit bigger? Is there any challenges in that respect?
Well, this is only our second season. Although, we talk about collaboration. The last season that we weren't in it, so the second season, we met here as we were becoming an association with, I think it was Ryan and Trevor at the time.
Yeah.
We decided against it then, but even then, we're talking about market sustainability.
Yeah.
11 of our players, I said to them, because we weren't entering F-League, I said, you're free to play in F-League, because that's, that was the pathway. If there was going to be anything for the Nationals, or if they wanted to play at the top level you could, that was it.
Yeah.
So I had 11 players at other clubs. It all came back the following season.
Right.
And that's part of the culture that we built. So in terms of the sustainability and the longevity of that, I don't know that it's any easier finding sponsorship. It's always going to be a challenge. But as the product becomes more visible, not just in Southeast Queensland, but in the country, then it's going to get easier. But for me, the bottom line is, you mentioned it, but it's this collaboration. We've got to be working together. And we had an unfortunate incident in the last couple of weeks where, not mentioning names, but we needed to come up with a solution around venues. Every football club has a soccer field.
Mm.
Well, futsal clubs have got a high venue. So we had an unfortunate incident where we had a late cancellation of a venue. We had 6 days to turn around, find another venue and try and play at a similar time in a similar place because our away team was Sunshine Coast travelling down.
Yes.
So in a 6-day turnaround, compared to those that caused the problem, to the collaboration that we had truly from Elite Foot, we had FQ reorganising referee scheduling.
Yep.
We had Marsden State High School working with us. We had to put tapes down on the lines. We had our own club. We had Trevor and Justin from Sunshine Coast Wave turn up for the game, and we're still taping, get on the hands and knees and put my tape down to get the game to happen. We had Super Futsal. I had spare tape from Super Futsal, who are a competition provider, and a spare scoreboard from them in case we had trouble with the score ones. And I also had Sean from Ipswich. He didn't really do anything on the day, but was ringing me with solutions. You could play out here maybe at 10 o'clock. And so you've got, all these people working together to
get a game on,
to make sure that something happens rather than someone creating roadblocks, and that's what's going to get the game going. And whether it's FQ and sponsors and different people at the table in terms of collaboration, it doesn't mean we don't have different opinions. We can still have I'm going to have a different opinion. I'm going to say things that maybe Vince doesn't agree with. But in terms of where the market is and where futsal's going and where F-League's going, we're supporting this. Even if I have a different opinion on something, it doesn't matter. I share my opinion. They make the decision, we get on with it, we move on, and we've got to work together. That, for me, that's the bottom line. Whether it's sponsors or clubs or schools or, but, for me, when I reflect, I mean, it's such a stressful week, 6-day turnaround to, anyway. But when I reflect now that I've got over it, the people that work together to make that happen, 4 clubs, Football Queensland, the medic, we had to get another medic because he couldn't, the Gold Coast guy, we had to move from the Gold Coast to Marsden. It's just,
everyone came together.
That's what needs to happen to continue to see the growth in the futsal product. It's collaboration on all parts.
Our clubs meetings are always very productive. Like, we collaborate. I mean, one thing that I do is I make myself available. I don't see myself so much as a business, as a futsal manager, as a business development manager. I'm a BDM. I manage the relationship. And I think that's where sometimes we can get the product wrong. Because, and no disrespect to our competitions department or any other competitions department, but I know that the futsal managers in other member federations are struggling. And they always come to me and they go, how come you're able to do that? How come you're able to do that? And I said, well, I have I guess a different relationship within my own organisation here at Football Queensland. I have a CEO and a manager that support me, unconditionally. And part of me taking the role was that I needed to own the product. I mean, competitions can execute the product, but I see the referees department, I see competitions as shared resource units. They are the experts in managing a competition. The referees department are the experts in training referees and allocating referees and making sure the games are properly officiated. But as the futsal manager, I own the product. So what the product looks like and how the product operates is my responsibility. So I need to be able to feed that in there. I provide the recipe. They just bake the cake. But I get that recipe by collaborating with the clubs. So we're always open communication. I mean, I know I work ridiculous hours and I have been stretched this year, but I think there's not a time when a club isn't able to get me if they need to, if they've got an issue. And we always come up with something that will, ultimately we don't see it as a us versus them, which unfortunately has been a little bit of what's kind of held football back a little bit. And I guess we just don't have the same history. So I get my job is a lot easier than probably other parts of this organisation because our clubs are on side.
Cool. It's obviously well documented that futsal improves technical ability in young players. So can you elaborate on how Football Queensland integrates futsal into player development pathways?
Yeah, this was a bit of a challenge for us because we know that the best players in the world, they speak for themselves. They've all had futsal as part of their journey. It's simple. The game is highly technical. You can't hide bad technique on a futsal pitch.
You get found out, I suppose.
Unlike grass, it can be a little more forgiving. The game is also faster. It requires fast feet. It requires even faster thinking. It's a small-sided game, 5v5. There's nowhere to hide. You're involved in every phase of play, whether it's attacking, defending, and transitioning. The game is changing. It's not something that, in our technical department, is something that I'm working closely with them. We currently, and it's something that I believe again comes back to the best practice model. Our technical department runs our state teams. So why aren't they running our state futsal teams? So we're having that conversation with them. Because I don't want to create new processes. I don't want to bring in a different framework. If that framework works, then, and when we go, unlike their programs where they go to smaller number of groups, I think next year for the 2025 National Futsal Championships, we're looking at about 200 passengers. On our program to go to Victoria. So we're taking every age group all at the same time. So that itself has its own challenges. But in terms of the selection processes, the player development processes, that's why we are bringing in the FQ academies, futsal academies. They're going to be bootstrapped to the current academies. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to swallow our own pill here. And we're going to be saying, well, we're not expecting every footballer that's in a current FQ football academy will be in the futsal academy, but there'd be nothing worse than a kid showing up that wants to play futsal and turning up, there's only 5 kids in the room. If we get 30% or 40%, or maybe the figure's closer to 60% of the players currently in our football academies wanting to continue training, then, when you turn up as a futsal player, you're also playing with pedigree. You're also training with pedigree. Those futsal players are going to develop and are going to improve, and those football players are going to develop and they're going to improve. So I think that's kind of the direction we're taking. I'm starting to have conversations with each of our development managers in the regions. And it's funny because in regional Queensland, the way we'll do that is we won't run our FQ futsal academies until October. We'll run them in the October to December period.
Off-season.
Because we know that those players are already committed to football. With the Metro or the Southeast Queensland region, what we'll do is we'll do the reverse. We're only going to run the academies 2 sessions in June, July, August and September, which is in the lead up to our state titles. And the reason we do that is because state titles, it's a state selection event. So it's virtually the first time you get to see these players and you're trying to pick a state team from them. Right, so we want to get a little bit more. We need to get a little bit more data. We need to get a little bit more knowledge on the players. But once state titles, and once we get to that point, those players are actually going to go back to the academies in their futsal clubs. Because that's where our strength is. Our futsal clubs all are running. I don't like the word academy personally, but they're running high performance programs. So we, just like we do in football, we actually value what the clubs are doing. And our futsal clubs are now behaving much more like football clubs. And I would say that some of our futsal clubs probably have player development programs that would rival some of our best football clubs. So that's where we are. They're bringing in with the same policy, the same player development framework that exists for football. This year was implemented on the F League clubs. They had to advise us what their retention strategies were. How and all the elements. So all the criteria that we were putting on football clubs, we're now putting on futsal clubs. And we're also putting on our own academies. So, those days when you said you were playing, but you weren't training, they're a bygone era. We still cater for the kids that just want to turn up. We get kids from AFL that want to turn up and just want to play football, and girls playing netball want to play futsal in the off season. Fantastic. The game reaches everyone. But we also have to cater for that elite group.
Cool. Greg, for more speaking of the technique side of things, do you notice whether it's kids or adults come in from an outdoor football background and you see their ability, their technical ability on the ball and whatnot improve with futsal, with the heavier ball and the tighter conditions?
I mean, for me, my involvement has been just futsal, so I haven't seen taking kids from a young age and then see them go to football and be better football players. Because like I said before, most of the players that I've been coaching are only playing futsal. But when I was on the sunny coast, and I was the president up there, and I went away with nationals as a manager for the youth team 2 years running, and we had Josh Nisbet, Jez Lofthouse and Dan Hall 2 years running. And Nizzy particularly, the way that he reads the game, man, that is influenced by futsal. You've got less time and space. You talked about the speed and all that sort of stuff, making decisions quicker. Not the only thing. Obviously, he's had decent football coaches as well. I forget the guy's name on the left and went to Central Coast Mariners. I mean, he ended up going down there because of that. But I saw those guys as kids when I was president up there. I went away 2 years running, and the best team that I've ever been away with is that team. There was no trouble. They just wanted to play.
Yeah.
They just loved the game, you know, and they played really well. I mean, I think Nizzy particularly. So I've seen the way that futsal can develop from a distance. In our club, my boy chose futsal over football at 13.
Yeah.
And when he went back, we moved from the Sunny Coast to the Gold Coast, and he went back and it didn't even end up being a whole season. He was playing at Brisbane, and we moved to the Gold Coast, and he couldn't even last. He went to the trial.
Yeah.
First ball, he was running down the wing and he crossed, and it went over the clubhouse because the ball's heavier. And so in my mind, there's no question that it has a good influence. That technically they improve it. I think as much as it's technical, it's probably more here.
Yeah.
Because you've got one of the ways that we try and across the board. I coach in one of the local schools as well in the mornings. But in terms of defence, the key moment for me at any level of futsal and defence is the second defender travelling with the ball, with the pass at the same time, ball's arriving, defenders arriving, because it's all here. You've got no time and space. I've got a ball coming. I've got to get control of the ball. I've got a defender coming. What am I going to do with him? Whereas if you give someone a little bit more time and space, that's when and this is where, the state titles and looking for kids, and scouting and all that sort of stuff, that's when you see it. You get kids that think they can do it. They come and play at a higher level and hello.
It's a bit different.
The time and space is gone. You can't, like Vince said, you can't hide. So, tactically, futsal's probably closer to basketball than football, but technically, it's your foot on the ball. Those your head too, maybe.
Well, as you say, it is a lot in your head. That space closes down pretty quick. And if your touch isn't right, you're no good.
Sure.
It's funny, a lot of times we sometimes say that, and when we do coach futsal, we do coach it differently at times because we borrow a lot from basketball. We do a half-court press. We borrow things from netball. And we kind of go, sometimes we have a bit of a joke and we say that, the only thing we share with football is the rectangular field, the goals, and the round ball. Which I will raise a cover of misconception. The ball is no longer heavier. I played when it was almost like you're almost kicking a medicine ball, right?
That's what
now technology has allowed the balls to be just as light as a football, but they have a low bounce.
Without the bounce.
So basically they pad them on the inside. The extra weight, but it's not like what we used to. We used to almost break a toe kicking a medicine ball.
How long it's been since I've played.
Yeah, that's right. We also have a saying, and I guess it's a bit cheeky, but we always say that good futsal players typically make good footballers, but good footballers don't always necessarily make good futsal players.
Especially strikers.
And I used to get in trouble a lot when I first went into outdoor football because I thought that I had to draw a player before I could pass the ball like you would in futsal. I had to have that coached out of me over it. I still do it. I still feel like I need to beat someone before I or with this pass, I need to.
Well, you've got the confidence to now, see?
Yeah, just
but the transition's here. The transition's here. It's mental. So if I'm someone that's playing both, then it's a mental thing for me to a little bit touch. If you haven't kicked the futsal ball for 6 months, then there's a little bit of that. But really, it's like, okay, I'm playing futsal now. Okay, I'm back to football now. And so you've got to make that mentally adjustment because we had when there was a club competition, national club competition run by another organisation just in the last few years, playing on a big court. We had a team from Melbourne that turned up that was only playing a small court. We're going, they're not going to adjust. But it's the same thing. It's mental. They won it. And they play on a small court all year, so 30 by 15 most of the year, maybe a little bit wider. But the international court, futsal's 40 by 20. So a lot more space. Yeah, they still won it. So it's here. It's definitely
smart.
Hang on. The FQ competitions, the F League and the academies and whatnot, how do they fit into the broader player pathway across the board?
Yeah, okay. Well, they're crucial. We're building the pyramid similar to football. With the junior, there's going to be an announcement later this week with the announcement around the junior leagues. Obviously, we're going to have FQ Academy League 1 and FQ Academy League 2. And they are what we call qualifying leagues. So they're run by Football Queensland. Interesting enough, FQ Academy Futsal League 2, look, we're only one organisation and we don't have a massive amount of resources in futsal. So we're actually licensing that as a league to our private providers. And I think that's part of why we have been successful because, when people sort of say Football Queensland's in it just for the money, well, there's a perfect example where we're not.
Yeah.
This is where we're actually respecting the competition managers and their capabilities and saying we don't need to run everything. It doesn't all have to be Football Queensland.
Yeah.
So we have a licensing model where we sort of say we will license you this league. Yes, we will control it. We will set the standard. We will maintain that league, and it will be branded and we'll control that aspect of it. But we're saying to them, you can run it. You run it and you can take the revenue from it.
Yeah.
So I think that kills that argument that we're in it for the money very, very quickly. Look, the F League is also evolving. In the F League in 2026 is going to expand to a 10-league competition. Yeah. Remember, because for us, we're connected. So even though we don't necessarily play a national competition yet, and when we do, it's going to be so exciting. It's going to be like we saw it in New Zealand with their Super League. It's going to probably be a 6 or 7 day event.
Yeah,
it's going to be the best futsal clubs in Australia, right, playing against each other that have qualified through their conferences, and the winners will then go on to AFC.
Yeah,
that's where that's the carrot. And that's why we need to be compliant with all the rules with that round AFC and stuff like that, because you can't qualify a team. But you need a length of season. So the F League is going to give us, once we go to 10 teams, it's going to
be
home and away, full home and away. So it's going to be full. There's no longer going to be any centralised league, because A, we won't be able to fit them all at one venue. Second of all, the other thing that's coming in 2026 is that we go to 20-minute stop clock. Full stop clock.
Yeah,
it's now the real deal. We're going to be pulling into line. Why aren't we there yet? We had this conversation. We had a robust conversation at a clubs meeting. Greg from South Brisbane and Justin from Sunshine Coast Wave, big advocates. We should be playing 20-minute stop clock. And I'm saying to them, I don't disagree with you. We will be playing stop clock, but we need to plan for that, because the moment we don't play at a centralised venue, we're sharing resources with clubs that have been given 2 years' notice. Yes. We've got the same players that are playing in the F League that are also coaching junior teams. Well, they'll be playing somewhere else, because the Academy League 1 will be still centralised, but because we play 14 rounds over 7 game days, so they're double header weekends. But what we're seeing here is that there's a bigger investment's going to be needed. So the clubs have been given almost 2.5 years to plan for that, right? So it's not going to be a surprise.
I got a question. This might be a silly one. So the 20-minute stop clock, is that so that it does a time stop when the ball goes up?
Every time the ball's...
So what you were saying before, where it was 15 minutes and then only the last 5 is... So can teams time waste if the winner's out? Is that what happens? Or?
Well, look, no one's going to waste time, but you get to the last 5 minutes, we are in stop clock. So we play the last 5 minutes are in stop clock, right? So there is no wasting time.
So a game would last roughly how long at this moment in time?
At the moment, a 15-minute 5, which is basically 20 minutes, roughly could run for up to 25 minutes, a half.
And a 20-minute stop clock?
Potentially 35 minutes, a half. We had a game in the first season where a women's game went over 2 hours, right? So the ball's not in play. It's every time the ball goes out, stop. Ball comes, stop, start, stop. So it can take a long time. You see how long when you're watching basketball, the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes are ridiculous on the
right, okay. So,
in a tight game.
Exactly. And then they've obviously in basketball their tactical fouls and everything else. So this is now becomes rather than a club hosting, because we have a very equitable model. Yeah. If there's 8 clubs. The first round includes, the first 7 rounds are home and away. If Greg's club had 3 home games last year, they get 4 this year, so it equalises over 2 years, right? It's very, very balanced, right? He's going to have to fund. These clubs are then going to have to go, well, we're not only going to be playing 14 rounds now, we're going to be playing 16, so 18 rounds, right? Because it's going to be 10 teams.
So you've got to hire the course.
So that means they've got to hire now, and rather than hosting, at a minimum 3 home games, it's going to be 9 home games. And rather than hiring the court for a minimum of an hour 15, most of them are hiring for an hour, hour and a half. It'll be a 2-hour hire per game.
Yeah.
And remember, it's unlike a football field, it's more minutes on the clock, means more hiring. So so it's going to be a significant cost on clubs.
I'm going off script here because it's kind of got us thinking now that you've said about that game went longer than 2 hours. What happens if, and it's F League is obviously like it's the pinnacle at this moment in time, blah, blah, blah. What happens if you come to the end of your court hire and the game's still got like 5 minutes to go? What happens then? Is it a case where you got people waiting to get on?
Playing overtime?
Look, it depends on the venue. Look, it does depend on the venue.
Yeah.
I mean, some venues are flexible.
Would maybe most clubs someone after just clubs, in case.
Yeah, most clubs, and I think most people would be reasonable. I mean, they're not going to jump in there. Most venues aren't, because when we're playing too, most venues, we may be the last game. Might be the staff might.
And they would know the importance.
They would know.
We book to allow for that. Even
now, that's right. Because there's still pack up time as well. Most of these guys are going to put chairs back and stuff like that. So that's the big challenge, right? So that's why I would love to be there now. But, there was also a marketing element to the game. We had players that never played 40. Like most of the games are played on a netball sized court.
Yeah.
So when you bring in a 40-20, you've got players 4 years ago for the first time they're playing on a 40-20 court. There wasn't many teams playing on an international court and playing 20-minute stop clock. That's a big step up for a player.
Yeah.
4 seasons in now, it's fine.
But even substitutes wise, you can't turn up with 3 subs.
Yeah.
Maybe now you get. We have never done that. We've always got probably 12, not 12 subs, 12 at least 12
total.
Total.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have with the women sometimes, because a lot of them are playing NPL or FQPL ones, so sometimes we'll have 7 or 8. You can get away with it at the moment. Stop block, no way.
Yeah.
Going to run out of legs, So there's a lot more that goes into
the planning of it.
You're talking about planning towards 2026 with what happened with that court issue a couple of weeks ago. We're already talking about 2026 now. We're planning for an hour ago. We're not going to have 4 home games. We're going to have 9.
Exactly.
So we're getting ready for that now.
And we've been upfront with it.
Yeah.
We've been upfront with it, and we said to the clubs, as much as Justin and Greg wanted to be there now.
Yeah.
Right. We were honest with the clubs, and we said this is what's going to happen. And again, it comes back to that collaboration.
Yeah.
We're going to give you time to plan for that. So there's no same with the visa rule.
Yeah.
We told the clubs last year in October last year that we're going to have to align ourselves, and even then we've given them 3 years. This year we've got our visa rule is 4. Visa players. Next year, it'll be 3 visa players unrestricted. 2026, AFC rules. 2 visa players.
Yeah.
A third one visa player, but has to be from an AFC country.
Yeah.
So, alignment will happen, but it happens over a time because we've all got to be able to get there.
Yeah. And stay there.
And stay there. That's the thing is too. We don't want to just get there and say we don't want to be run the league once. And I think it's a testament we're in League 4. We're a little bit like the A-League when our league season 1, then season 2. Well, you look at it and go, we're in season 4.
Yeah.
This isn't something that's just happened and it's going to happen once.
Yeah.
We know we're already planning for 2026 and clubs are already investing in 2026. But we've also need depth.
Yeah.
So last year what we did was it's all good and well to have the FQ Premier League.
Yeah.
Have the F League. But last year we launched the FQ Futsal Premier League.
Yeah.
So we've now got a second tier, men's and women's. The men's was crazy. The men's, we had 14 teams in the second tier because we wanted to have League 1 and League 2, but no one wanted to be in League 2. So for the first season, we said, okay, everyone can play League 1.
Yeah. You
play each other once. It's a long season for futsal. But, and the women was a lot smaller than that. And, we've got to work. But our visual is going to be that we've got equality by 2027 in all forms of the game. So we'll continue that. But the FQ Premier League was brought in to give us that depth.
Yes.
Eventually, we want promotion relegation.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we allow dual registration of senior players because we know that players, like Greg's players were playing at South Brisbane.
Yeah.
But then they wanted to play in the F League, so they may have gone and played for another club.
Yeah.
That means they can't play for South Brisbane. So last year, it was unfettered. You could be dual registered. This year, we've removed the dual registration, but what we're saying is that players can be on loan. So as an F League club, I can put a player on loan to a second tier club. That gives my player minutes, but they can't play in the F League and in the second tier on the same weekend. So again, we're onion skinning and we're bringing in the regulations as we come.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up with the leagues. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say, I kind of made some notes here. This is going to be controversial for some. It's going to be biased for some, and probably arrogant for others. But I honestly believe that we have the best junior futsal leagues in Australia.
Yep.
When you have a look at our results at the National Futsal Championships the last 2 years, in 2023, we came back out of COVID and we won. I think we were in 7 grand finals out of 12 age categories, and we won 5 national championships.
It's pretty strong.
This year we hosted in 2024. I think we were in 9. We had 9 grand finalists, and we again won 5.
Yeah.
So in 2023, everyone said, it's a fluke. It's a fluke because everyone else had COVID. We didn't have anywhere near the lockdowns.
The restrictions, yeah.
And I'm going, okay, I don't think so, but I'll take that on notice.
Yeah.
But we backed it up 2 years in a row. And I think the strength of what was previously the SEQ League and what is now our, and we've opened that pathway up. So to answer your question there, League 2 is a qualifying league. Mm-hmm. We only have 8 clubs playing in the FQ Academy League 1. But we've got them coming into League 2.
Yep.
We've got football clubs now starting futsal programs. I don't know whether you've seen the socials, but just in the last week, Eastern Suburbs Football has launched East Futsal. Gold Coast United has just launched United Futsal.
Yeah.
We know that Rabina is launching futsal program. Gold Coast Knights, Brisbane City, Mogul FC has a futsal club last year. Mount Gravatt Hawks will be playing futsal this year as well in various tiers. So we're seeing a massive move over there. I think the timing of our league is perfect. Our players play 14, our junior players play 14 highly competitive games where on any day, any team can beat anybody. They wrap up at the end of December.
Yep.
They go into a bit of a training camp and then bang into January, turn up at Nationals, and we're a dominant force.
Yeah.
And I think I can't take credit to that because we don't have academies as yet.
Yeah.
But the credit goes to the clubs who have been developing the players. But I think it comes back to the strength of the leagues.
Yeah. Well, so looking ahead then, what are the long-term goals for futsal in Queensland and Australia, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Look, my big thing here is we need to unify the game. Unification of the game is paramount. And we work very, very closely as member feds.
Yeah.
We see it on the socials. It's easy, these days. Give someone an opinion, a keyboard, they can say whatever they want, right? But member feds, we meet every month. And I work very, very closely with Jordan in Football New South Wales, with Blake at Capital Football, with Jimmy now has taken over at Football Victoria, Alex at Football West, and a bit of a game changer, Northern New South Wales Football. They've just announced that their futsal manager is about to kick off. A guy called Damon Shaw that was also in the Solomon Islands, running the Solomon Islands futsal there. And we meet monthly.
Yeah.
And to some degree, everyone wants to have a crack at FA. Well, the FA agenda has to be driven from the bottom up. We know that with futsal, and we are unified. So unification is one. Grow participation. Our strategic plan comes out, will be released shortly. We're very aggressive, 12,000 registered players, 300 referees. It's not just about growing participation when it comes to players, but also growing coaches. We've got AFC Level 1 courses coming up. We'll be launching our Foundation of Futsal courses as well. National F League, massive. We need to connect the pyramid.
Yeah.
The member feds have done it. So now, and if it doesn't happen in 2025, I think there's a good chance that Football Queensland will be hosting the National Futsal Championships in 2026.
Yep.
We'll make it happen then.
Yeah.
Because Football Queensland has already demonstrated that we are the leader when it comes to futsal in Australia.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to make the tough decisions. And lastly, a national women's team. I mean, FIFA's endorsed the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
So to me, I mean, when all these things come together, I'm probably ready to pass the baton on.
Yeah.
We've unified the game. We've grown participation level significantly nationally. A national F League competition in play. That is not. We're not going to go back to the old days.
Yeah.
We see how the struggles that the A League does.
Yeah.
We're not going to see teams jetting all over Australia to play. And people's attention span's not that long. Do you want to follow an F-League competition, national F-League competition over a period of 6 months? The interest would wane.
Yeah.
But support your local F-League comp, your local conferences, and then bring them together for, New Zealand did it in their Super League, bring them together for 6 days. Game after game in a single court stadium, in a fantastic stadium. We've got state-of-the-art stadiums in Queensland. We play game after game. The best men and the best women's over a period of 6 days, and the winner qualifies. And there's a medal at the end of it, and a trophy that says you can now go represent Australia in Asia.
Are the Solomons still involved in any way over here, or would they be? Because that was a highlight going to nationals back.
Look, I believe they almost came to Queensland in this year in 24. They had some other commitments that kind of overrode that, but obviously with the funding and the support they get from the Australian government, I know that they'll almost definitely be back in 2026 if it's hosted in Queensland. But we've been talking to them about attending in 2025. So I think you'll find an under 30. Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? How great is it?
So, some of the players they had, and it was funny. You go to nationals, no one wanted to play against them, but everyone would watch all of their games.
Oh, absolutely.
Packed.
Yeah. Look, they were last minute withdrawal. They were coming. Same as we're trying to encourage teams. Look, you look at what New Zealand's done with futsal. I mean, it's amazing. We can learn from our counterparts across the ditch.
We used to get North Shore across for the nationals back in the day as well.
Yeah.
They were always very strong.
Yeah. Look how many turn up for the Gold Coast International. I mean, there's a massive Kiwi contingent that comes and plays in the Gold Coast International.
Yeah, very much.
So, and if we host in 2026, the National Futsal Championships and Gold Coast International will be back to back.
Right.
That's going to be huge. That's going to be massive.
Yeah.
What about from a club point of view, Greg? Anything that you'd add to that as far as the future and what you think needs to happen?
I think, if I close my eyes and think about what's been the highlight for me in the 20 years that I've been involved, it's got to be when there was a National F League. And even though that was over, it wasn't 6 months, because I think we were South Brisbane, we'd fly to Sydney, and while we were in Sydney in that weekend, we played the 3 Sydney teams all on one weekend. When Sydney came up here, and the second year that or third year, when we had South Brisbane and Galaxy, so they'd come up and they'd play both of the Queensland teams on one weekend. So it wasn't as long, but to put it over a week and to have, some of the best memories I have and the players that have been with me, my boys played over 500 games for South Brisbane. It's close to a one club person that you can get in futsal, which is not it's pretty uncommon. Yeah. I've got other players that, like Blake's 23 now, but been with us from 16, so 7 years, 8 years. Yeah. Some of the best memories are when we go away together.
Yeah.
And it's not just the going away, it's at the level of the competition and getting on a plane, flying to Sydney, playing New South Wales.
Testing yourself.
If it's all in 1 week, you're not going to be flying anywhere. You'll be flying once, but that's for me still feels like the good old days. And if we can get back to, and I think you're right, Vince. I think at club championships is going to be better than at the senior level. What the juniors have got, that's great. I mean, I was probably there some of those years you're talking about. I remember those Solomon teams getting over. When I was manager for Caleb's team in under 15s, they played the Solomons and got belts at 21-2 or something.
We generally got wiped as well.
Yeah, but they're good days, weren't they?
Yeah. So still a highlight.
So the juniors still love it. Yeah. We talk about markets. Is there a market for that? They still go and they pay good money to go too. So
you're lucky you get flights. I remember we used to do the bus trip from Acacia Ridge down to Canberra and back. That was hell, but flight sounds all right.
Yeah.
And final question to both of you. So, what advice would you give to young players and coaches who are passionate about futsal and want to make a difference in the sport?
I'll let you go.
Look, for me, it's not just about futsal. I say this with people who want to, they're asked to join our club, not my club, our club, or want to leave our club. It's like, what do you want to do? What's driving the fact that you want to go somewhere else? Or what's driving the fact that you want to come here? What's your passion? What's your desire? That's why we play any sport that we play, because we love it, because we enjoy it. Whether it's the competition or the level or the enjoyment or the fun or the beer afterwards or whatever contributes to that. So my thing was passion and desire in any sport. I think get involved with a good club, and by a good club, it's not just someone that's got a good name or someone that's got a focus on results. We all want to play to win. But a club that wants to be around, a club that wants to invest in development, wants to retain, people from like the guy I mentioned before, from 14 to 23 now, he'll be our next captain.
Yeah.
He already had a game last week where he was captain. So, that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
So to be involved in a good club, a club of good character, I guess, not just results, but also to build something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
So to invest yourself. So receive good training. I mean, you talk about the AFC Level 1 courses. I hope they're coming soon because we've got coaches that are waiting for them. So to have good coaching, but I want to build a club that has people that want to build something that's bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Whether that's the club or whether, I love the school space because we can invest in kids' lives as well. They can become better teenagers.
Yeah.
And if they become better teenagers, I'm going to get better players.
Yeah.
So my advice to someone that's passionate about any sport, particularly futsal, would be to find a good club and to be looking to build something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Get the good coaching, good club, just get involved. Yeah.
Perfect.
Look, I think I can't agree more with Greg. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about creating love for the game. We sometimes lose sight of why we play sport, and it's meant to be fun.
Yeah.
Look, we all want to be competitive, and there's a time and place to be competitive. We really need to be careful with our young ones. I think we need to be very much considerate about. I think sometimes we think, wanting to win all the time and the way we celebrate is overshadows the way we play the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And look, I have 4 boys. They all play futsal. They all play futsal and football at high levels.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the youth crisis at the moment with crime, we've got to give kids, we've got to engage kids, we've got to get them off their devices.
Yeah.
I look at the end of the day from a broader perspective. I don't care whether they play futsal or football or netball or Aussie rules, but be involved in something because it's the last connection with community and what we knew as the village.
Yeah.
Obviously, my bias is I want everyone playing futsal because it's an amazing game.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you can't play it, and I've got 2 boys that found out that they had genetic heart diseases, which they weren't even aware of. They can't play the game anymore. One's an administrator and one's a coach.
Yeah.
So it's not always about playing the game. If you can't play the game, then take another role and stay involved. Absolutely. And I think that's what we're doing by building a sustainable sport and a game means that people will be able to enjoy the game for years to come. No single individual or one of us can own a sport or a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've got to do. And we're all on the journey. And each one of us, myself, Greg, when we step out, we hope to leave a positive legacy for people who come in behind us and take it on.
Well, thank you. I'd say.
Yeah.
Just like thank you both for coming on. Bit of an eye opener for me. I not really knew much about the futsal environment, the landscape. So definitely know a lot more now.
Yeah, there's so much happening. As I said, there's so much happening in futsal. Like we don't stop.
Yeah.
And that's why we are getting a full-time staff member.
Yeah.
As soon as I can get enough time to actually review the resumes.
Yeah.
But it's our schools program is we only started that last year. It's in second year. We've had state championships. Yeah, there's a lot happening.
Yeah. Well, look, again, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Been enjoyable and like, share, subscribe, do what you've got to do, and we'll be back with something soon.